Welcome to our fourth webinar of 2026. My name is Dominica. I am a Kidney Life and Transplant Life Community Manager. I am so excited that you guys are here, and I am so pleased to welcome Maribel Costel, who is a living donor, but more so a living donor facilitator. Maribel, I am going to hand over the presentation to you, let you introduce yourself and introduce our topic for today.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I do appreciate you spending your time with us today and honored to be a presenter for this April event. My name, like Dom said, is Maribel Costel. I am a living donor facilitator at a local hospital where I live, and I work with both potential donors and recipients and trying to find a living donor in their quest. I will be sharing my screen and going over some few things. So again, I appreciate you being here, and let me just get all set up. Great, great. I'm going to start with a little bit about myself. So you know what I do. You know that I am a living kidney donor, and I donated to my father, who is showing pictured here on the left, and that was 7 years ago. At the time, my father was 72 years old and was in need of a kidney transplant. And I had offered to be his living donor if it all worked out. And my dad was a very stubborn person who did not want me to donate my kidney to him. He felt that perhaps one of my brothers would move forward to test for him. And, he felt very conflicted of me donating. And I think it was his low health literacy and his thoughts about what he knew about living donation at the time. And additionally, of course, he didn't want to put me at risk and really was just very stubborn about it. And I think it was also a cultural thing as well. And so, showing here on the right of the screen, is a picture of my husband and I. And I have been on the other side as well as a caregiver for my husband. My husband has had two kidney transplants in his life, both from living donors. And I'll share a little more about that in the next slides. But at the time when my dad was on dialysis, the same time my husband was on dialysis, and they were both waiting kidney transplants. It was a very difficult road for our family, and as for any recipient, it is very stressful and overwhelming, as well as for the families involved. So I'll share a little more about that, but wanted to kind of give you a little more background about myself. So, a little bit about today's objectives is how to start a conversation about living donation with friends, family, and even strangers. Gaining insight into living donor workup of what a living donor potentially goes through to get approved. And increase the knowledge of living donation. Living donation is not something that typically people discuss much. And unless you're in the kidney world or liver world, you don't really know much about living donation, and most people don't even know a living donor. So having a little more insight into that always makes it helpful to give that ask. And then understanding the options for when you don't have a match, but somebody would still like to donate to you. Finding a champion who can help you in your organ need and spreading that awareness. And then to clarify some most common myths about living donation. What are the benefits of living donation? There is a shorter waiting time compared to waiting for a deceased donor. And so really depends the state that the recipient is what that wait time would be, as well as other factors such as blood typing, tissue typing, antibodies, all of those things. But when we refer to the kidney wait list, it is about one person's placed on that kidney wait list every 9 minutes. So that means that people are being added on and not being removed at the same rate. So it really just depends. And again, the average wait time varies by state. So please check with your center of what your average wait time would be for your particular state. So, and then other benefits of being having a living donor is being better prepared for a transplant. Transplant. It is a scheduled surgery, so both the donor and the recipient know when it will be happening, which makes it a little bit easier in the sense that you have your caregiver in place. You're more prepared to recover. So it generally gives better results, longer recipient life, longer kidney transplant life, and less chance of rejection. Because of the thorough workup that the living donor goes through, they'll be very aware of what type of kidney they're receiving. And then better kidney as well. So it's less time on ice, and the kidney typically functions immediately. Go to the next slide. So the donor evaluation process may vary by center, so please check with your center, but normally the norm is that a potential donor must make the initial contact with the transplant team for that transplant center. So as a recipient, you can't call your center and say, hey, for example, my brother wants to donate. Can you contact him? Unfortunately, the transplant center would have to have the brother call directly, making that initial contact. And then every center again will be different in the way they approach it, but generally they'll have to fill out a health questionnaire to go over their medical history, social history, family history, so that the center can get a better idea of what their overall health looks like. From now, they'll determine whether they'll move to the next steps. Next steps generally consist of lab work and testing. It can include, depending on age, sex, many factors go into place, but things such as chest x-rays, EKGs, abdominal CT scans, lab works, and then having appointments with the transplant team itself. So I like to say that our donors do get the best physical they're ever going to get, because we're looking at everything so thoroughly. And it's not that we want to rule out people not to donate. We just want to make sure that living donors are kept safe, that they're not at risk for needing a kidney in the future, that we're not putting them at risk for other comorbidities, or making sure that they're making a conscious decision of donating. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of the donor. So if we feel that, for example, the living donor may have enough kidney function for the rest of their life, but not enough to share, then we would let them know, you know what, let's not go ahead and move forward with this because you don't have enough kidney function to share. So it's really dependent. And then HIPAA is very important that we follow HIPAA. And so when someone is testing for a recipient, the living donor team cannot inform the recipient of who's testing, where they are in the process, or anything like that. We keep that very confidential, because we never want a living donor to feel pressured or feel like they're the only option for the recipient. So we'll go over some common myths and facts. Some myths is that, or that all comes up a lot, is that you need two kidneys to live a normal life, and that's not correct. So if you have two great functioning kidneys, you can live a normal life with one. Post donation, the donor can return to normal, regular activities 4 to 8 weeks after donation, varies by patient, and live a normal, healthy life. So that's why there is such a thorough evaluation. Another myth is finding a match is rare. That could be another thing. We have a lot of potential donors that may not be directly able to donate to the recipient. So, if that is the case and they still would like to donate, a lot of centers have what's called a kidney pair donation program, where we can match the recipient up, for example, here, recipient one with another donor and the donor with another recipient that is a better match. And that really is a really beautiful thing because they're not only helping the person they want to donate, they're helping another person and getting two people off the list. So it's an amazing thing. Some centers participate in voucher programs, and if you contact your center, they can give you more information on that. Another myth, a donor will have to take medication for the rest of their life, and that isn't accurate. A kidney donor does not have to take any long-term medications except for any maybe pain, nausea meds, gastro medication post-surgery to alleviate some of that stuff during recovery, but it's not anything that they have to do long-term. Another myth is that someone over 50 years old can donate. And really, some centers do have age restrictions, like say they have to be 18 up to 65. Every center is different, but normally that's not just a determining factor. An ideal donor will just have to be in good physical and mental health. And that they're making their own free choice and know the risks and benefits of donating. So please check with your center. Another myth that a female donor should not conceive after donating a kidney, and this can be center specific as well, but generally a female kidney donor should, the risks are explained to them post pre-donation, as well as having them wait for about at least a year to have their new normal kidney function. This is one of the reasons my father was very concerned about me donating, in the event that I wanted to have more children. Once he learned that that was not going to be contraindicated, he was very happy to hear that. So let's talk about some recipient barriers to discussing the need for a kidney transplant. Really, there is a lot of factors, and every recipient is different. Sometimes there's a fear of initiating a conversation, of just asking, or a fear of asking and hearing no. A lot of people can be embarrassed. Many people are private. Some people are perceived as weak for asking help, or lack of knowledge of the donation process, sense of putting donors at risk, or sense of not deserving a kidney from a living donor. And another one to note that I did not put on here is there's some cultures that do not believe in donation. So there can be very different reasons why you have these barriers. But you have to remember that, people are never too busy to help someone they care for. And we'll talk about a little more about that. But I do have to say it is against the law to accept money or anything valuable in exchange for donation, just as disclosure. So what I like to tell recipients is to start with an elevator speech. And you ask, what is an elevator speech? Think of it as just a brief moment in time. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're in an elevator, just means that you are, have a little quick snippet of you sharing your story. So it's a brief, like 30 to second way to introduce yourself, getting a key point or two across, and making a connection with someone. So, for example, just envision yourself in an elevator. I've gone in elevators several times in my life. And, when you go on there, out of respect, you say, how are you doing? And, usually people are like, great, living the dream, or great, just going to the doctors or whatever. But even tweaking that just a little bit when given the opportunity, you can say, I'm doing well. I'm working on my kidney or liver living donor campaign. And people are generously, going to be curious and say, "Hey, what is that? What do you mean?" And say, "Thank you. I'm glad I asked. I'm in need of a kidney or liver transplant, whatever they may be, and I'm looking for a living donor." I mean, even just to spark that conversation, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get. So, what is a living donor champion? So, a living donor champion is someone that genuinely wants to help you, but doesn't know how to. Maybe they can't donate to you because they're your caregiver. Maybe they're too young. Maybe they have health issues, but they want to help you in some way, shape, or form. So, what do you look for in a living donor champion? It's someone that's willing to advocate on your behalf, that maybe can navigate social media, be your voice, spreading your need. And some common traits of a living donor champion is someone who is caring, wants to donate but cannot, believes in causes, or good with communication skills. So it really doesn't cost anyone to be a living donor champion for you. It's just finding that right person. So a champion is, like I said, someone that's going to help you navigate. It doesn't have to be necessarily family. It could be friends. It could be an acquaintance, and they really can help you overcome those barriers. Discussing that need. Honestly, sometimes it's easier for someone on the outside to ask than you yourself. It's less pressure on you, and you don't hear the word no, or you don't hear other things that you may not want to hear. So it really is beautiful because studies show that, having a champion increases your odds of finding a living donor. So, after you create your elevator speech, I recommend that you create your kidney campaign. And this is going to be a little bit longer, where it's going to be just a little snippet of your story, right? You want it to be authentic, briefly discuss maybe if you're open to sharing what caused your need for a transplant. Making it personal, how it describes or affects your life and daily activities. Like I said earlier, sometimes people do not know how it affects your life, unless you tell them to. They don't realize what it is living in end-stage renal disease or liver failure. Describe the average wait time for deceased donors. Many people watch TV shows and assume, oh, people need a donation, like an organ, and 5 minutes later they have an offer, and that's not how it works in real life. So explaining what the average wait time for a deceased donor is will create that sense of urgency. And you really want to create that call to action, meaning that you say, if you're interested or know somebody that would, please share my story. Create a call of action to share your story, to contact the transplant center we're working with, if there is interest. So let's talk social media. Social media is rapid fire, I like to call it, because it's so easy to share, and you're sharing with the population that you normally would have not shared with. So Facebook and Instagram, and now we have TikTok. There's different ways in social medias, and so it's a great way to create a platform for sharing your story, photos, providing facts, engaging your audience to understand what you're going through. And like I said, you may reach out to people you otherwise would have not reached out to. So it's going to create a whole new audience for you. I'd like to kind of show you that this is personal to me. When my husband was looking for a kidney donor, unfortunately, we didn't have any family that could come forward to donate to him. So we put it out there. We had our own living donor champion, which was amazing. It was a friend of ours that, couldn't test for him, but was really extremely knowledgeable in social media. So she offered to create a page for us. So she would text us and ask us if there were weekly updates, how he was feeling, so she can update our social media. And it really really helped us find our living donor that we donated to him. Um, she was not a friend of us. She was an acquaintance from years past, was not friends on Facebook with us. And our mutual friend shared the post, and she knew that she wanted a test for my husband, did all the lab work, did all the testing, and was approved without our knowledge. And called this one out of the day out of the blue and said, I'm ready to donate on said date to you. And it was just amazing. But had it not been for that Facebook post that was shared, we wouldn't have captured her attention and interest in being a donor. Things that our Living Donor Champion shared were, feel good stories about donation. Um, reputable sites shared information on organ donation. So she shared those as well. So it was very informational and personal as well. But there's other ways if you're not comfortable with social media that can raise awareness. There's so many services out there now that like Canva, Vistaprint, GoFundMe, Etsy, that you can find a lot of these things to make in a less expensive shape. So example, business cards, creating a business card with your need for an organ, where to contact, what center, and just pass those out. I usually say stay away from, posting or indicating to contact you directly. Just have them call the transplant department directly for your center. Now there's magnetic car signs that you can put in, customize. I love seeing those decals on the cars around town because you never know who you're going to be reached. Place of worship, if you practice religion, maybe at your church, t-shirts, yard signs, if your HOA allows it, flyers, bulletin boards, TV, journalism, community events, interest groups, if you're part of any groups, share it with them, social media, blogs, and then lastly, your center may have some options to create a microsite. So meaning like a little website that would direct people to your site of your need, and maybe even creating a QR code. So there's a lot of other ways that you have than your traditional ways and just social media to get the word out. Back, when my husband received his first transplant, there wasn't social media. So word of mouth was the best way. And that's how he found his kidney donor. But what I challenge you to do, this is not homework, but more of a personal challenge for yourself, is to find yourself that living donor champion. If you find it hard and don't have the energy or the emotional capacity to spread that word around, then finding someone, a friend, family, or acquaintance to be your living donor champion to help you navigate. Create or have someone help you create a social media page, posting daily in the social media page, sharing your story with at least 3 people this week, sending an email or letter to 3 people a week, following pages and sites that are reputable and related to your need for an organ donor. Surround yourself with positivity, very important, because having that emotional support during this process is very important. And many centers have peer mentor groups, support groups for recipients and caregivers and family. So please take advantage of that yourself, joining those support groups. And lastly, I want to thank you again for attending, but I do like to leave people with this quote is if people don't know, they can't help. And it's really true. How many times did you forget to ask for help and they're like, well, you should have asked me or you should have told me. And it's, we kind of just stray from that, but just sharing is very important. And if it's that one person you reach, you just never know. But thank you again. And now I'll kind of turn it over to you. If you'd like to if you have any questions over the presentation, then please feel free to let me know.
Thank you so much, Maribel. That was a fantastic presentation. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
we would love to open up the chat for comments and questions, anything you guys want to share. I do also have some questions that were sent in to us. Um, and also, if you guys have any questions that you come up with later, please feel free to reach out to us, post it in our forum, or email me, and we will be sure to address them when we post the recording. But so some of the questions that I received before, Maribel, um, what was the biggest challenge that you faced in the donor workup process, and how did you overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge for me was that when I started my evaluation, they wanted me to lower my body mass index, my BMI, to just have a safer surgery. So I was really looking out for me. Getting myself in that mindset of, okay, I have goals and I'm going to get to those goals, and how am I going to do that? And it has actually helped me continued to always take care of myself, put myself first, and be at a healthy weight post donation as well.
I totally hear you. Actually, that was one of the things that was my mom's biggest challenge as well. But she always says that she doesn't think she would ever be able to be as healthy as she is right now, or get herself to actually stick to diet and exercise if she didn't have something that was motivating her so much, you know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's funny that you said that. Um, Another question is how time consuming is that workup process? And if there's someone who is worried about juggling their day-to-day work, their job, their family, but also going to appointments and getting those tests, what would you say to them? What advice do you have about how it was for you?
It was a time and emotional investment to do the testing itself, because you always run that risk of not maybe being eligible and being disappointed, or having obstacles. But I think it is the best investment in my time and my energy and my emotions to do it, because I felt that the living donor team was looking out for me, that this was a good choice for me to do. And I felt that, to me, it was very important for them to be thorough. So I appreciated the extra layers of, appointments and meeting with different team members and getting everybody's perspective. So it definitely was not, I don't feel like it was a hindrance. It was well worth doing all of that. Even if I wasn't able to donate, I appreciated that.
Sure. And was your job fairly accommodating with the workup process and having to attend those appointments?
Absolutely. They were very flexible. And even for recovery, when I was approved, they were extremely supportive. And even though it's an elective surgery, they knew I was doing it and the reason why I was doing it, and very, very, very appreciative that I did it. So, yeah, I never felt torn, and I did, take the allotted time for recovery and did not feel any pressure to get back to work, sooner than I was ready.
Sure, yeah, that's fantastic. I have heard that a lot of places, really welcome that, and they're
Mhm.
very open and receptive to helping those who are donors and those who are going through that process. So I think that's kind of it. That's the time we have for today.
Great.
I see that there's a lot of notes in the chat saying thank you for the informative presentation. Everyone's very grateful for your time today, for what you've done as a donor, for your day-to-day work and helping other donors. So we are so grateful that you were able to join us today, give all this great information, and share some of your own story. Um, this recording will be available on both Kidney Life and TransplantLife.com. And so I invite you guys to keep your eye out on either one of the websites for future webinars. And if you have a moment, please answer the post webinar survey. I dropped a link in the chat, but I will also send it out. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us today. And again, thank you so, so much, Maribel, for being here and for giving this wonderful presentation.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening.